Hello friends, we will be talking about leaves in this set of videos. Green plants, algae and the few species of the bacteria uses sunlight as the energy source. All the other organisms on the earth obtain their energy by consuming directly or indirectly what the green plant produces. The process by which the plant produces the carbohydrates and releases oxygen is known as the photosynthesis. The chloroplast in the cells, plant cells especially, traps the energy and converts it into chemical energy. Leaves provides the large surface area for the absorption of light and carbon dioxide. Both are the raw material for the photosynthesis. In general, most of the leaves are thin so that no cells lie far from the surface. This architecture makes it easy for the leaf cells and the chloroplast to absorb light and imbibe the carbon dioxide gases. At the same time, however, to promote it also promotes the loss of water from the plants because of the opening that will permit carbon dioxide to pass only and allow the water to evaporate. The process, what we know as transpiration, it also helps the cool the leaf and acts as the driving force for the water transport system. However, excessive evaporation places in the plant is danger to dehydration. To a great extent, the leaf forms that is the morphology and the anatomy are the comprises of the captured light and carbon dioxide conserving the water. Water starving structures, as seen in many cases in the succulent plants, okay, and also in the xerophytes, it becomes important for the plants that occupy the hot, dry regions, whereas in the rocky cliffs and the deserts, where the plant water loss is a great hazards. So in this section, we will be talking about different structures of the leaf. So let's start with the overall structure of the leaf. So to define leaf, leaf is a wide, flat, green vegetative part of the plant which originates from the nodes and helps in the photosynthesis. So if you see the entire structure of the leaf, it is basically what we call as the phylopodium. Okay. So this entire structure is what we call as the phylopodium. Okay. The upper part, that is from apex to the lower part, that is to the base, is called as the epipodium. Now, the petiole area is called as the hypopodium. Sorry, mesopodium, and the lower part is called as the hypopodium, where the stipules and axillary buds are present. Okay. So let's just understand the structure of the entire leaf. Okay. So entire leaf has got a different component. So we have got the apex here. Okay. Then we have got the blade. This entire apex and the blade, what we call as the epipodium. Okay. It also comprises of the midrib that passes from the center of the leaf. Okay. Then we have the veins. From the veins, we have got different veinlets, and then we have got the margin. This entire area is called as the blade. And then we have got petiole. Petiole is that area of the leaf to which it is attached with the stem. So we have got the stem. So the leaf is attached with the stem with the help of the petiole. And then we have the small area, that is stepule, and we have got the axillary bud here. Okay. So from the axillary bud, we also know that we have got flower that also comes out. So if the petiole is present, it will be called as the petiolate, and if it is absent, it will be called as the sessile. So that is how we define during the taxonomical evidences for related to leaf, that whether the leaf is a petiolate leaf or sessile leaf. If the leaves are present on the main stem, it is called as the colline, and if it is present in the branch, it is will be called as the ramel. These are the some terminology that you need to remember when you are applying for any examinations, or even for your graduation, post graduation, or if you are preparing for the NEET examination. And if they are originating from the underground stem, it will be called as the radicle. The leaves of the dicots and the monocot plants are similar in functions, but their basic design differs. Monocot plants have their leaves, their strap structure in the leaf beds. These vascular bundles commonly runs parallel through the leaves, and there the leaf base usually wrap around the stem. In case of the dicot leaves, they are typically composed of flat, thin portion, that is what we seen as the blade, with the vascular bundles in a netted pattern and narrow portion of the petiole. The blade is the part of the that absorbs the most of the light. The petiole is designed to hold the blade away from the stem, not to so these are the we also seen in the previous example, that how we define whether it is a petiolate or sessile. Okay, so when we'll be going further deep into that, we will be understanding how to identify a plant on the basis of the leaf, whether it is a monocot or a dicot plant. A closer look at the cells of the tissue of the leaf blade, if we cut it on a transverse section, reveals the anatomical structure that aids the photosynthesis, transport of food and water, and in the transpiration of the gases. The outside surface of the leaf is covered by an epidermis. The ground tissue is the chloroplast filled mesophyll cells and the vascular bundles in the form of the vascular bundle, that is also called as the veins. The petioles are the specialized structures that enables it to support the leaf blades and conduct the food, water, and the mineral. The petiole is the point at which the leaves are shed in the autumn. We will see how the abscissance takes place at the end of the growing season. Okay. So if this is the structure, we have got the epidermis, that is the upper epidermis, and we have got the lower epidermis. On the upper surface of the epidermis, we have got cuticle here. Okay. So this yellow layer that you see in the diagram, this is the cuticle layer that is covers over that. This is the wax coated layer. In case of the plants that are xerophytic, this cuticle is a thick layered. Okay. Usually the upper epidermis is a single layered cell, but in many it may be depending upon the kind of environmental stress the plant is going through. It can be also a multi-layer cell. And then we have got the mesophyll cells. Okay, then we have the lower epidermis, and then we have the guard cell, stomata. Okay, now this stomata is basically the opening through which the gaseous exchange takes place. Okay, and then we have got the guard cells around that controls the opening and the closing of the stomata. Okay. And then we have got the xylem and phloem, that is for the transportation of xylem for water transportation and phloem for transportation of sugar and other minerals components. Okay. And this all together forms the bundle sheath. So let's first understand the structure of epidermis. Now, the epidermis covers the entire surface of the leaf petioles and the leaf sheath. It is continuous with the epidermis of the surface of the stem. In most of the leaves, the epidermis is single layered, and that consists of the epidermal cells, the guard cells, the subsidiary cells, and the trichomes. The epidermal cells are flattened in a cross-sectional view of the leaf. In surface view, the epidermal cells are often irregular and sometimes look like puzzle. The outer cell wall of the epidermal cells are sometimes thickened and as usually covered by the waxy layers of the cuticle. The waxy cuticle inhibits the evaporation of the water through the outer epidermal walls. Because of the cuticle blocks, most of the evaporations, especially in openings that are needed for the epidermis that are controlled for the gases exchange, these opening exist on the small pores that is lying under between the guard cells. The two guard cells plus the pores, that is what we call as the stomata. In most of the species, the plants of the guard cells are surrounded by specialized epidermal cells that are called as the subsidiary cells. These cells typically occur since the recognizable pattern, and that is how we actually use the structure of the stomata, or we study the structure of the stomata. On the basis of that, we understand the pattern of how the plants actually act. So it can be a dumbbell shaped stomata, it can be a normal or the three-celled stomata. These cells typically occurs in the recognizable pattern, and they play an important role in the mechanism of opening and the closing of the stomatal pore. The entire structure is what we call as the stomatal apparatus. This describes the guard cells plus the subsidiary cells. The stomata permits the entry of the carbon dioxide need for the photosynthesis and the loss of water vapor by transpiration. Transpiration also cools the leaf surface by evaporation, and in the process pulls water from the roots. Okay. So there are hundreds and even thousands of stomata per square centimeter of the leaves. Usually there are more stomata on the bottom of the, or that is what we call the abaxial leaf surface, than on the top, probably to minimize the water loss due to the direct sunlight on the top of the surface. Stomata occurs also in the epidermis of the young stems and flowers part, most likely in the uh, to ensure that water movement of these plants actually takes place in a proper manner. Several different types of trichomes also occurs as the part of the epidermal cells. Some of the trichomes are secretory in nature. They are usually have a stalk of the multicellular head that does this secreting work, which also forms the part of the cuticle. The material secreted is often designed to attract the pollinator to flowers. The leaves of the some of the desert plants, such as Stabulus saltbush, that is the scientific name of which is Altripix species, have several short hairs. The end cells are the white has a white cuticle, and the cells are filled with the water. The hair not only stores water but also reflect the sunlight and insulate the leaf against the extreme desert heat. Other leaves, such as those of the olive trees in case of Olea euphorea, have the netted mat of a branched hair that acts as the heat insulator. The leaves modified to eat insect as the food, mainly nitrogen, occurs from the specialized trichomes. The most important functions of the leaf is to use the sunlight to manufacture the carbohydrate. To this end, most of the leaf blade is made up of the parenchyma cells containing the chloroplast. Collectively, this is the tissue called the mesophils. The mesophils is the typical dicot is organized into two distinct regions. That is the palisade mesophils, and then we have got as the parenchyma cells or the spongy mesophils. The palisade mesophils is usually on the upper surface of the leaf. The individual cells called as the palisade parenchyma cells are packaged together with the right angle to the leaf surface. Their cells are tightly packed together to more efficiently absorb the sunlight. The spongy mesophils, which is usually located at the lower part or the abaxial portion of the leaf, is made of the spongy parenchyma. These are usually irregular in shape and they abundant in the airspace because between them to allow for the more efficient air exchange from the cells. The cells of the mesophyll cells have thin moist cell wall, and also rapid inward diffusion of the carbon dioxide and the other diffusion of the oxygen and other vapors. Just under the stomata, there is another air surface that is called as the substomatal chamber. The cell wall exposed to this surface provides the main evaporation of the surface for the exchange of gases. The veins consist of the vascular bundles that forms a network throughout the leaves for the transportation of water and the nutrients. The xylem conducts the water and dissolved minerals from the root to the leaves, and the phloem transport the carbohydrates made via photosynthesis in the mesophyll cells and the leaves to the rest part of the. A typical dicot leaf in the large diameter of the midrib runs the length of the leaves. In cross section, the xylem is on the upper part of the bundles, and in the simple way to remember that it is the stem of the xylem is towards the middle, so that if a vascular bundle diverged into the stem from the leaf of the xylem, would end up towards the top of the leaf. Along with the vessel members, the tracheids that transports the water. Xylem also has the fibers around the outside of the bundles, which provides the mechanical supports and the parenchyma cells between the vessel members. The phloem makes the lower part of the bundle. The phloem is the flowering plant consists of the sieve tube members. That is also in short form we call as the STM, which conducts the sugar, the companion cells, fibers for support, and parenchyma cells. Most of the smaller vascular bundles have the same basic structure, with the smallest having only a few cells. If you look carefully in the figure here, so you will find that many of the leaf veins end blindly into the leaf mesophyll. The diagrammatic views shows that the leaf veins ending into looks like often the very tip of the veins is quite simple, with only one or the two trachea elements surrounding the bundle sheath. Sometimes the single layer of the cells, called as the bundle sheath, surrounds the vascular bundles. The cell is in the bundle sheath works to load sugar into the phloem and to unload water and minerals out of the xylem. The main vascular system difference between many dicots and the monocot leaves. In the monocot leaves, there are several main bundles running in the parallel of the length of the leaves rather than the single midrib. We'll study about the structure of the venation when we'll be going deep into that. Okay, and in the branches you will find that it will be typical dicot leaves. In cross section, the leaf vascular bundles have the xylem on the top and the bundle sheath and the phloem. In some grasses, especially in the type of photosynthesis called as C4, photosynthesis occurs. The type of photosynthesis operates the lower carbon dioxide concentration and high temperature than regular photosynthesis. The C4 photosynthesis requires more step to convert the carbon dioxide into sugar, and it involves the special role of the bundle sheath called that is what we also call as the crassulation CAM. Now, while we understand the structure of the leaf, it is also important that to understand where the leaves actually new leaves come from. The leaves originate from the meristem. So, if you push away the older leaves of the buds, you will see that several crescent-shaped bumps of the flanks and the tip of the shoot apex apical meristem. That is also in short form we call as the SAM. These are the few new leaves are formed in the early stages of the development. They are called as the leaf primordia. The initiation of the new leaves involves the complicated set of events. Among them is the movement of some kind of chemical signals from the vascular bundles to perhaps the already initiated leaves primordia. The location of the leaves depends upon the plant's phyllotaxy. The signals which triggers the cell to initiate the site of to start dividing. These cells becomes the leaf primordia. The shape of the new leaves will be determined by how the cells of the primordia divides and enlarges.